Yes, the annual government waste report is out, and do we have some examples for you? Just got a couple to start off with. The federal government spent $2 million to study children sneezing. Not quite sure why, but they did it, and they spent $2 million. Another $1 million for a photograph that was cut into 6 pieces and then hung in a new federal courthouse in California. Oh, California, there you go. Now let's bring in the author of that report, Senator James Lankford, Republican from Oklahoma. Senator, welcome to the program. Now,
yeah, glad to be with you.
Every year we go through these crazy lists of wasteful spending, and we come back the next year and do it all over again. Can you promise us that this kind of waste and nonsense will be eradicated under a President Trump?
I can't promise you anything will be eradicated because you deal with a federal budget that's plus $3.5 trillion. You'll always have some waste. My main job is to provide the oversight to be able to look at it and say, how do we get rid of this? That we don't just identify it, but we solve it. Let me give you an example from last year. 25 years in a row, we've given subsidies to wind to help wind power get started. After 25 years, they don't need jumpstart funds. That's a $6 billion subsidy out the door to be able to do that. We finally got that wound down last year. That was in my book from last year. So we can take a piece at a time as we look at each year. This becomes our to-do list of how to be able to solve it.
Are you going to go through department by department and say, how do you cut this? How much are you going to cut here? How much are you going to cut there? And go through every department? Is that how it works?
So basic oversight needs 2 things. One is it needs good boundaries and definitions. Most of the issues you'll see are grants that went out. About $600 billion a year are in grants. Like the grant you mentioned about sneezing, it's worse than even children sneezing. They were testing to see if children would eat food that someone sneezed on right in front of them. That was the big test that they did on it, which, by the way, I can answer it for free. No, children don't want to eat food that's been sneezed on. But you've got to have some parameters for all these grants that go out the door. You've got to have a way to be able to watch duplication and to be able to deal with government duplication in agencies. You have to have a way to be able to oversee regulators. Those are process pieces. Once you get processes in place to actually watch some of these things, then you've got to actually have real oversight to be able to help pay attention to it. That's what the media does. That's what Congress should do.
But you've still got that situation where people in Congress want to bring home the bacon of any form to their own constituents. You will always have that pressure. Give me the money. I want to spend it here.
That is correct. So even though we just finished up Thanksgiving, it's a good time for us to be able to talk about pork. And the pork projects that are in here are typically projects that someone identified and they want to bring home. I can thankfully tell you those are diminishing because as the amount of media attention is coming on them and with the ban on earmarks that is now in place, we're getting less and less pork projects and more just wasteful projects that need more oversight. And so now it's the next step of how do we actually deal with the oversight that's needed.
Senator, we thank you very much for appearing on the program. We will have you back to see if you've got rid of some of this stuff. That's a promise.
Well, you know what? Be glad to do that.
Yes, sir. Great stuff. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Now.